Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart, yes, the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a serial entrepreneur with 17 startups under my belt, been involved in several unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also the co-founder of Yva.ai, an AI HR tech company I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And with that, I'd like to introduce my incredible guest, Michael Spencer. He's a co-founder and CEO of Smart Money International. He's got over 25 years experience directing large-scale tech innovation from startups to Fortune 500 companies, including Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, Bank of New York, Lloyd's of London, and British Telecom. Boy, is that a mouthful or what? He's got incredible experience, and he's working in Africa today. So imagine going from those corporate opportunities all the way to Africa. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, talk about his experience, and we'll talk about East Africa, what's happening there, cultural differences, and how do you survive, make money, and change the world. So with that, hi, Michael. How are you?
Hey, Gary. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you.
Thank you.
So you're in British Columbia right now. So I got a question for you. You grew up on a farm, you know, you went to Columbia University in New York, but you grew up on a farm, what, in British Columbia? And then one day you said, hey, listen, I'm going to take off and move to New York.
Yeah, sort of. I have a very odd history. I grew up on a farm with cows, pigs, chickens, but my father was actually a management consultant, designing very large scale corporate computing systems. And he hired me at the age of 13 to be his apprentice and trained me on mainframe computing. And so by the age of 18, I was a qualified management consultant, left the farm, moved to London, and my career began. So yeah, a lot of strange twists and
Wait a
turns.
minute. You went at 18, but then when did you go to Columbia?
So I, 21, landed in New York City, and the Bank of New York hired me and made me a U.S. citizen. Paid my way through Columbia University and made me a vice president. Stayed there for 8 years and then moved on. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Boy, that sounds like fun. So you had a good. Now, how was it moving over to the UK? How did you like it over there?
Well, I'm actually British. I was born in London. I know you can't tell from my accent. We moved over to Canada when I was 5, but my whole family's British, and yeah, I love going back. It was a lot of fun, but they didn't like me so much. Here I am, this 18-year-old kid managing a bunch of 40-year-old British professional computing experts, and they used to call me the colonial.
Oh, really? The Colonial? Wow. So I, the one thing so I lived over in London. I don't know how it was for you, but I would go to Hyde Park because there wasn't a whole lot to do unless you went to the pub. But I would go to Hyde Park, and it was the oddest thing because it could be like drizzling and people would be laying out on blankets in Hyde Park. And it was like being in Seattle. It was like the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. I thought, well, isn't the sun supposed to be out or what's the deal here? But it was interesting.
Well, totally. Brits love that kind of weather, right? I mean, it's the same weather in Vancouver. We're just north of Seattle, so
Yeah,
it's
but the thing in Vancouver, you got the ocean and it's a whole lot different kind of experience. It's not like you're looking to Kensington Palace, it's a little bit different kind of deal. So you've done that, you've been around the world, you're 18 years old, you go to London, you come back over to the States at 21, you go to the States at 21, spend 8 years. And now, how was it when you were 21 years old and you had all this experience and trying to or managing people that were older than yourself, and you didn't have a college degree at the time? How was it? I mean, did
yeah.
they listen? Was it how did it feel?
Extremely stressful, to be honest, because I did have the professional ability to do the job, but I was still a teenager, right? So it's emotionally not really well equipped for that type of corporate politics, and the Brits can be pretty cutting, as you know, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely a tough experience, but look, people go into the army at that age and they go through basic training. This was kind of my basic training. And
I've never heard of anybody doing it like that, though. I got to tell you, it's like that must have been incredible. What did your dad say? Well, see you later, you know?
no, quite the opposite. And in fact, we had this. He's a PhD in physics as well, right? So I would expect that he would encourage me to go to university at a young age, but quite the opposite. He said, "Look, man, you're making money. Get out there and make more money." And so he really encouraged me to go off and do what I did.
Now, how was that compared to your peers? Because you couldn't hang out with other 18-year-olds. You
No,
know,
exactly. I had
you
a
had a
very
lot
odd
more
life.
money than all of them, right?
Yeah, well, I skipped the whole sort of college experience. I was making 120K before I was 20. So I went straight into that lifestyle. I just missed out on, the Animal House experience, and went back to university later as an adult, doing night school. So it wasn't quite the same. I do feel I missed out on something there.
Now, I got a question for you. Did you ever want to relive your youth and have that Animal House experience? Did you ever say, I wish I would have done it, or did you just forget about it?
Well, that might explain why when I left Goldman Sachs, I didn't continue in the corporate world and instead became a house music DJ. And for 3 years was producing electronic dance music in New York City with a group
Wow,
of
that's
DJs.
amazing. That's the first story. And how was that? Did you meet a lot of celebrities, and were you hanging around with cool people, or how was that?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I got, again, it's sort of a lucky random encounter. I ended up getting connected into a really top group of music producers and learned a lot about the music industry, had a great time, but discovered that there's not a lot of money to be made in music, and this was not going to be sustainable for me. And so I started transitioning back into technology, and eventually ended up doing what I'm doing now.
That's amazing. What did your dad say when you told him you're going to be a house DJ?
Yeah, well, he supported that too, because this also connected back to my youth. I mean, the reason that he employed me as an apprentice at 13 was so that I could afford to buy musical equipment. So throughout my teen years, I was using all this money I was making from my dad to buy synthesizers and drum machines, tape recorders. And so, in my later years, I basically went back to what I was truly passionate about, making music. Did that for a while, and I still dabble in it, but like I said, it just wasn't really a profession.
Wow, that's amazing. So you did that. So what happened after that? So you decided, after that, you were a director. You went to A Small World. So that is what was that all about?
Yeah, well, so I was in this kind of media music scene, and Apple had come along with iTunes, and all of a sudden people are starting to sell music online. One thing led to another, and I found myself employed as a CTO for this social media company called A Small World. Now, this is in the era where Facebook was really just getting started. MySpace was still the dominant platform, and they hired me to help re-engineer their social media platform. What made them unusual, and to this day they're still existing and still unusual, is that it's an invitation-only social network and highly exclusive. It was dubbed the Facebook for millionaires, right? And so you had to be established to be invited in. And
No kidding. That's interesting, right?
it was amazing. 350,000 of the world's wealthy, powerful people, and you can imagine how they interacted online back then. And so, another interesting aspect of the opportunity was that the company had just been acquired by Harvey Weinstein back before he was recognized to be the Harvey Weinstein. And they were monetizing the business by bringing in luxury brands to advertise to this captured audience of wealthy people. And these brands had never advertised online before. So here we are, teaching Gucci and Prada, LVMH, how to do online advertising. It was quite thrilling.
Now, did you meet any of those folks? Did you put your own profile down and say, well, geez, it'd be interesting to meet this person?
Oh yeah, I mean, we had all kinds of people walking through. Seinfeld was in the office. I mean, we were in the same building down in Tribeca, actually, with Harvey Weinstein and his film company. So all kinds of celebrities were coming through. It was quite exciting. And then, of course, all the brands, and most of them were out of Europe. So you had this constant whining and dining of all these European brand executives. It was a great experience.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Hey, somebody just wrote Lindsay just wrote a comment. from techno to technology.
Exactly right. And now to Africa. How does that work?
Yeah, no, exactly. So tell us a little bit. Were you just like get bored or what? What happened? So you
Yeah, exactly. I
one
need
thing
a
right,
challenge.
I need to be in this wild situation. So I need to change it up a bit. I'm going to go to Africa. I can't think, I did the same thing. Just, my perspective, I did the same kind of stuff. I went down and when I moved over to Russia and, people said, well, what's wrong with you, et cetera. It just, things were so mundane that I wanted to get out and I wanted to go out and try something different. And it worked. It was a lot of fun, but
Yes,
it was different.
I'm sure you enjoyed the challenge, right?
Every day, every day something was different. I'd fly to Siberia in the weekends, go to Vladivostok or to, Central Asia. I mean, my friends they didn't even know where the Armenia is on the map, right? Or Azerbaijan or Georgia. They just didn't know. And when you're down there and you're seeing things that other people have never seen, or going to the Kremlin on the weekend and walking around Red Square and grabbing a beer at the local pub down there, it just was normal. And I don't know, there's so much more in the world to see, right? That people never get a chance to experience. How many people are going to go to Africa, to East Africa?
Yeah, and I think if you have a natural curiosity, you just want to experience these things, right? Certainly, that's what drew me to New York in the first place. I always wanted to experience New York, and I stayed here 35 years in New York, and that was enough time to kind of discover that reality. And yeah, I can't say that it was initially a strategic decision to go to Africa. There was actually a woman involved. I was dating a lovely Kenyan lady that I met online on Match.com.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. And
Yeah.
yeah, lovely lady. And we were together a while. And then she invited me to go and meet her family in this remote village in Western Kenya. Never been to Africa before. Right?
You
So
are wild.
I had never been to Africa, so I was like, of course I'm going to go. This is going to be an absolute adventure. So, and it was, because it wasn't your typical, Western safari 5-star hotel experience. It was a very remote village, no electricity, no running water. I met her 92-year-old grandfather, received an honorary goat, met his 9 wives.
You wait a minute. Wait. You got an honorary goat?
Oh yeah, it was a very traditional experience. And
so what happened with the goat? Did you
well,
what did they give you the goat for?
Well, it was just a gesture, right? Of course, I couldn't check the goat on the
And
flight
did you have
back.
to give him back another goat, or what was your obligation?
No, I returned the goat. I couldn't take the goat with me. It was more, like I said, the gesture of the gift. But it was beautiful, and it was transformative, this experience for me, because I'm embarrassed to say I'd never really been to any developing country prior to this. And I think many people from the West don't really have this opportunity to experience firsthand how the vast majority of the world's population actually live. I mean, we forget that we are the ones living in this kind of modern bubble of technology and civilization, as we call it. But the rest of the world is not living like that. And to witness that firsthand with children everywhere and these kinds of conditions was
Wait a minute.
really.
You said, I got a question for you. You said he has 9 wives. He has 9 wives or had 9 wives?
Yeah, and he's 92, and I think his youngest was about 21.
9 wives?
Yeah, but that's quite common, right? The culture is one of having multiple wives, and of course that's changing, right? Modern times have brought in more of a Western standard, but it's important to kind of remember that when you see that men are often taking multiple girlfriends or wives. That is part of the tradition.
Well, that's amazing. And how old were his wives?
Quite a wide range. I mean, there were some that were his age even. So, yeah, he had the 9. There was the whole spectrum.
That's amazing. And you didn't say anything to your girlfriend saying, well, I didn't know this exists, but what do you think?
Yeah, I got to eat more.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. That's incredible. That's amazing. So you went over there. So what made you decide to go back? What made you decide to stay? What was it that captured your attention?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Well, I should explain too that on this same visit, I encountered something called M-Pesa. And this was phenomenal to me. I mean, this is now what, 12, 13 years ago. And the local telecom company, Safaricom, had introduced a service called mobile money. So pesa is Swahili for money, M being mobile. So M-Pesa, mobile money. This was really the first example of phone-based mobile payments anywhere in the world. And here it is in Kenya. I mean, we weren't doing anything like that in America yet, right? There was no Apple Pay, no using
Right.
phone payments. So given my background in technology and banking, I had to be doing something like this, right? And I was just enchanted, I guess, really by Africa. It was just such an amazing experience. And here's the banking, here's the tech opportunity. I got to do that. And so I came back to New York. I had a group of friends, business colleagues who had connections out there, and we went back out on kind of an information tour. I had some really great meetings with different telecom companies, banks, and what have you. But again, another random encounter is what set me off on my smart money journey. We were in a bar in Dar es Salaam having some beers in Tanzania. And a local guy pulls up a chair and he says, "I heard you guys talking about mobile money." He says, I run a cotton factory out here in rural Tanzania, and none of my cotton farmers are using this mobile money stuff. And I said, well, that's odd. I've read that most rural people don't have access to bank accounts. Do they have phones? He says, yeah, they all have phones. And so why are they not using this mobile money? And he says, I don't know. Why don't you come out and we'll go and talk to the farmers and find out? And so this led to a year of my life, literally touring around very isolated villages.
Oh my gosh, how was that?
Unbelievable, right? I mean, every village, you'd organize hundreds and hundreds of people. They'd all sit around in this giant circle. I wasn't speaking Swahili at the time, and I still don't speak it well. So this new friend of mine, the cotton factory owner, he's translating back and forth. And it was just a fascinating journey of discovery.
And how did they treat you in those villages? Where did you live when you were there?
Well, this 1 year has led to 10 years of very similar experience. And so this has become home to me, really. I'm very comfortable in these communities. I'm still obviously recognized as a foreigner, but very welcome. Africa is not the stereotypes that we're all told. It is not this dangerous place of beheadings and Ebola virus. It's just like here. I mean, it's a rural community. People are very hospitable and friendly, and food is delicious, organic, avocados falling off your trees. It's just a paradise.
And do you have a house there, or do you rent an apartment, or what's the home ownership like?
I've done a variety of things. I've stayed in guest houses that are sort of like small local hotels. There's kind of two Africas, right? There's the Africa that Westerners generally experience, and the safaris and so forth. And then there's the Africa for locals. And these small hotels are very, very affordable. I mean, it's like $5 a night. They're very cheap, and they're comfortable. They're safe. You learn to minimize and live with less and less, accoutrements and gadgets, and that just becomes normal. And so, as I move around, depending on how mobile I am, I'll stay either in these small guest houses. We're now operating in Western Uganda, and we do have a more permanent guest house there. But again, it's nothing fancy. It's a basic place, and it's got a generator, and it works.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about smart money. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing in terms of to address the untapped market opportunity, and what's the vision? Let's talk about Pan Africa, what you're trying to do there, and how it really fits in the financial community.
Yeah, great. Well, so you asked me, what brought me out there, and honestly, I think there's really two things, and they're very intertwined. Obviously, I was sort of struck by the economic difference between Africa and what we are familiar with in the West. And to me, I do have a strong sense of social justice, and there was just something about this that didn't feel quite right. But on the other hand, it also seemed like a fantastic business opportunity. I mean, here you have people, many people, millions of people, in fact, who have phone technology, who could benefit from financial services, but are not currently using this, right? And this started getting me thinking about really the magnitude of this banking opportunity. And the magnitude is immense. I mean, worldwide, we're talking 2.5 billion people who do not have access to financial services, no bank accounts, right? 1/3 of those 2.5 billion people live where? Africa. And 60% of those people live in these very isolated, remote rural village communities, right? They're very difficult to reach. So there are very high barriers to banking these customers, which is why they remain largely unbanked. So anybody who can climb over those barriers has this incredible opportunity in front of them and nobody in the rearview mirror. So let's do that.
No, I think it's right. How is it, by the way? So you're over there, like, I just curious, like on the social side. I mean, what do you do for fun? I mean, you don't stay in your place all the time. Like, do you go on safaris on a weekend, or I
Who's
mean,
got time for that, Gary, when you're building a business? What do I do for fun?
yeah.
I try to figure out how to give people in these communities a service that actually benefits them. How do I do that in a way that is going to bring understanding and trust at scale at the tops of mountains with people who have no internet access, no smartphone capability, limited capacity for learning through sort of modern learning channels. An incredible number of challenges. And quite honestly, this is what I love to do. I love to problem solve. I love to build things. And, somebody recently asked me, they said, Mike, I can't really tell what's motivating you out there. Is it to help people or to make money? And I said, well, it's actually both and neither. I obviously want to help people. I obviously see the golden opportunity here to make money. But what really gets me going in the morning is solving these problems. There's so many problems, and Africa has so many challenges to overcome. And my team and I have proven that we can overcome them. So let's just keep going. And we now think we have a model that is proven, it works, and it's ready for expansion across the continent.
Wow, that's great. Well, that sounds super. Yeah, there's a lot of activity. You look at there's 1.4 billion people in Africa and 54 countries. So there's quite a huge population to serve. How do you deal with cultural differences? I mean, from country to country, from Kenya to Ethiopia to Eritrea. I mean, how do you deal with the cultural differences? Are they that different when you're going from country to country, or are they pretty similar?
Well, not only are they that different from country to country, they're that different within each country. So take, for example, Kasese district in Western Uganda, where we're operating. The people there are Bakonjo people. They speak a very, very unusual language called Rukonjo, which people, even in neighboring districts in Uganda, cannot understand at all. They can't communicate with these people. So we can't just go into the city of Kampala, hire a bunch of experts and bring them out to Kasese. They can't even communicate with the customers. So yes, you're dealing with incredible cultural diversity and linguistic diversity. Having said that, what we've recognized is that there are consistencies or patterns that do exist across these markets, and especially in rural. So if you look at a rural community anywhere in Africa, you'll find you have similar constraints: very limited infrastructure, very weak, poor roads, very limited internet access. You have endemic insecurity to deal with, very limited professional talent to employ, very limited learning capabilities from the customers themselves. And so what we've kind of recognized is all these patterns, and then we've systematically, through trial and error, through a lot of failure, discovered solutions that overcome each of these barriers and ultimately build the trust that's necessary to bank these customers. Mm-hmm. And we believe that the solutions we found to overcome these barriers, they work everywhere, right? They work everywhere where these conditions exist. And these conditions exist not only across the 135 districts of Uganda, but as you said, the 54 countries of Africa and beyond, right? You have similar rural conditions in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, in many other parts of the world. So we've really created a model to bank unbanked at the base of the global wealth pyramid. And we believe the base is the right place to start. It's where the most people are. And once you've got that base, through the network effect, it becomes considerably easier to work your way up the pyramid, ultimately to the top. So, our ambition is very modest. We just want to become the world's largest digital bank. That's all.
There you go. Simple. Well, you've done a whole lot of amazing things. 18 years old, you're in London, management consultant, techno disc jockey. I mean, you've done a lot of different things. So I'm sure the world's in front of you. So we're coming up to the top of the show. So closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Great. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, Gary. It's very humbling to be here amongst some of these other guests you've had. You're doing some amazing work, so thank you for that. Closing thoughts. One of the things that I really am quite passionate about is changing perceptions about Africa. Too often what I encounter is people thinking that Africa is a place for only churches, charities, and victims. And I believe that it's only when we rethink that Africa is really a place for businesses, service, and customers, that we will really start attracting meaningful investment capital into the continent. And only when that happens will we start seeing change. So the irony is, change will happen when commerce comes. And so I'm on a bit of a mission to really try to bring new understanding about the economic opportunities in Africa. And hopefully we're leading the way with an example that will be very, very profitable for our investors. How can people get a hold of me? They can reach me at michael@smartmoneyinternational.com.
All right. Thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule, Michael. I appreciate it. So my audience out there, michael@smartmoneyinternational.com. If you have a question, if you're interested in investing, get a hold of Michael. He's a great guy, and he's making the world a better place. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the host of GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. Thank you for coming to another exciting edition of our show. I'll be back again Thursday with another exciting guest. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll see you later. Thanks a lot. Take care of yourself, Michael. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Gary. Bye for now.